The night of Valentine's Day 1995, Sally McNeil made a 911 call with a shaky but determined voice, stating that she had shot her husband, bodybuilding champion Ray McNeil, because he was physically abusing her. Her daughter can be heard wailing in the background. It looked like a simple case of self-defense, but you won't believe what the legal system did. Welcome to Crime Site. Today, we will take a journey into the story of Killer Sally, a former American professional bodybuilder who is no stranger to the dark side of fame. Netflix documentary series Killer Sally explores how the legal system and media treated McNeil's case, portraying her as a misunderstood bodybuilder who was a victim of domestic abuse. However, there are some facts missing from the show that happened in real life. Before we begin, we would like to give a trigger warning as some of the content of this video involves details of domestic abuse and violence. Who was Killer Sally? The notorious Killer Sally's real name is Sally McNeil. In her short life before imprisonment, Sally was an American professional bodybuilder and part of the U.S. Marine Corps. During her time in the U.S. Marine Corps, McNeil made a name for herself by winning the prestigious U.S. Armed Services Physique Championship, not once, but twice in the late 1980s. Despite her success, McNeil's career in the military was not without controversy. In 1990, she was demoted from her position as a sergeant due to her poor behavioral record, including incidents of anger, violence, and lashing out at others. As a result of her behavior, McNeil was eventually discharged from the military. But her true tragic tale of murder and mayhem began when she met Ray McNeil, another competitive bodybuilder at Camp Pendleton. At the time, Sally already had 2 children from her previous marriage. Their abusive relationship. After the two started dating, they quickly tied the knot, and Sally turned to wrestle men on video for $300 an hour, earning her the nickname Killer Sally and enough money to support Ray's burgeoning bodybuilding career. Ray's success in the heavyweight and overall titles in both the 1991 NPC California Championships and the 1991 IFBB North American Championships led him to participate in the 1993 Mr. Olympia competition, where he placed 15th. He even dabbled in professional wrestling and stand-up comedy, performing at free shows at the Comedy Club in La Jolla, San Diego. But Sally had no idea about the type of monster she'd married then. Soon after, things took a sinister turn when Ray began abusing Sally and her 2 children. According to Sally and her 2 adult children, Shantina and John, Ray began to routinely abuse them for years, even beginning just 3 days into their marriage in 1987. But that wasn't the only time that Ray couldn't manage a grip on his anger. According to DJ, a friend of Ray's, Ray had gotten into a violent altercation once before while working as a bouncer at a nightclub. After getting into a heated argument, Ray stuck his fingers through another man's eyes. What's worse, Sally's daughter Shantina even verified the horrific night when Ray came home covered in blood, claiming he had to do what he did because others were trying to kill him. The family eventually settled in Oceanside, California, where Ray's steroid use and violent behavior only intensified. Sally described how Ray, who had a significant weight advantage over her, frequently choked her, and Shantina recalls the sound of her mother struggling to breathe. Sally's nose was once broken in front of her children, and she filed a report, which Ray forced her to take the report back after he beat her. A worsening marriage. On the surface, they seemed like any other happily married couple, but their tumultuous relationship came to a deadly end on Valentine's Day 1995, when Ray planned to spend the evening with another woman instead of his wife. As revealed in the chilling testimony of Sally McNeil during her Killer Sally interview, the events of Valentine's Day 1995 were nothing short of a blood-curdling nightmare. It seems that Ray, Sally's husband, was nowhere to be found for much of the evening, leaving her consumed with apprehension and the gnawing suspicion that he was off canoodling with one of his many mistresses. Fearing the worst, Sally started to gear up to head to a nearby watering hole to track him down, but before she could make her move, Ray suddenly returned home, and all hell broke loose. A heated quarrel erupted between the two over Ray's absence, escalating into a brutal physical altercation that left Sally battered, bruised, and struggling for air as Ray's steroid-fueled fury boiled over. Sally warned him about the shotgun in their house, but Ray laughed it off, unaware that it would be his ultimate demise. Worried for her children's safety, Sally picked up her shotgun and shot Ray twice, killing him that night. She then made a 911 call admitting to her crime. Sally was then convicted of Ray's murder, marking the chilling conclusion to her infamous career as Killer Sally. After being charged with murder, her 2 children were sent to a shelter before being sent to live with their grandmother in McNeil's hometown of Valentine, Pennsylvania. The case of Killer Sally is more than just the documentation of a crime. It tells a story that deserved to be heard, but was ignored instead. If you want to honor more victims like Sally, subscribe now to our channel. The aftermath of the murder. During Sally's trial, there were doubts about the accuracy of her story, such as her body language during the police interrogation, the trajectory of the bullets, the lack of forensic evidence linking her to the crime. Sally was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years to life, but her conviction was later overturned by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the basis of improper jury instructions. However, the U.S. Supreme Court ultimately reversed the Ninth Circuit Court's ruling and reinstated Sally's conviction. Sally served her sentence at a women's facility in California and was granted parole in May 2020. She later got married and currently lives in Northern California. McNeil's case was a national sensation that came in the wake of several high-profile trials involving domestic violence and the portrayal of women as angry aggressors. After McNeil was arrested and charged with murder, her case drew attention in the wake of other high-profile trials involving domestic violence and the angry woman stereotype. Sally McNeil's life is a complicated and tragic one, full of violence, abuse, and heartache. The Netflix series Killer Sally. The Netflix series about her, named Killer Sally, explores the many themes of her life, including how a prosecution team could twist McNeil's self-defense arguments and inconsistencies into a conviction for second-degree murder and a sentence of 19 years to life. The true crime series, consisting of 3 gripping parts, includes extensive interviews with Sally McNeil and her 2 children, John and Shantina. The interviews offer a deep insight into Sally's journey to becoming a bodybuilding champion and the turbulent marriage that led to her imprisonment. It is interesting to note that while the Netflix documentary sheds light on the turbulent life of Killer Sally, there are some facts that were missed. Sally's time in the Marines was marred by serious behavioral issues, which ultimately led to her demotion from the position of sergeant. These issues, which included anger management problems and violence, were severe enough to prevent her from re-enlisting in the armed forces. While the documentary provides a sympathetic portrayal of Sally, it is important to acknowledge the full scope of her history and the impact it may have had on her actions. The series also fails to mention that she actually had not 2, but 3 children, one of which was put up for adoption. It's a sad reality that this child's story was not explored further, but one can only hope that they were taken in by a loving and supportive family. While her story is one of darkness and tragedy, it also offers a powerful message of hope and resilience, reminding us of the importance of understanding the complexities of the human experience and the role that compassion and empathy can play in shaping our world. So, now that we know the story of Killer Sally, we must answer one of the most difficult questions of life. Can we truly move on from the past? Or are we forever marked by our misfortunes? Comment down below, subscribe to our channel, and click the video on the right for another thrilling story.